Welcome to Hitman Boxing. We are the A-Side boxing community. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button right now. If you're a Deontay Wilder fan, you might not like this video, but please feel free to listen to it because I'm going to drop some knowledge on you. I suspect that Deontay Wilder is being protected. Maybe it's by the WBC, his promoter, Al Heyman, who knows? But if I look at his last 5 fights in comparison to Anthony Joshua's last 5 fights, it looks very fishy. Deontay Wilder, we know, doesn't have the best resume. We know he's fighting Luis Ortiz on March 3rd. This is going to be his biggest step-up fight, but his last 5 opponents have been lackluster, to say the least. Since beating Bermane Stiverne in 2015 for the WBC World Heavyweight Championship. We can go through and we can compare and contrast resumes. We'll just do the last 5 fights. That's all we have to do. All right? We'll start with Johann Duhaupas. Deontay Wilder beat Johann Duhaupas in the 11th round by TKO. This is where the coward of the county was born. Duhaupas was 32-2 before he faced Deontay Wilder. Prior to Wilder, he really hadn't done anything. Very durable opponent. He almost went the distance with Wilder. Ended up giving Wilder a pretty bad swollen eye. It was a really weird looking swollen eye that Wilder had. But, you know, it's expected in the heavyweight division. These are big guys. They're throwing bombs. Deontay Wilder exposed in this fight. Couldn't fight against the ropes. Couldn't fight when he's backing up. Proved that to us. However, he came off with the victory, beat Duhaupas, and moved on to his next opponent, Artur Szpilka. You remember Artur Szpilka, right? This is the guy, southpaw, outboxing Deontay Wilder. What was it? It was a 6-round knockout, I think, if I recall. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was a 6-round knockout. Deontay Wilder did knock out Artur Szpilka. Now, some people say that the fight was fixed. Some people say that Artur Szpilka took a dive. Now, I'm not saying he did or he didn't. It's just what some people are saying. You be the judge, right? But before, fighting Deontay Wilder, I believe Artur Szpilka was undefeated. If I'm remembering this correctly, I believe no, he wasn't undefeated because he lost to Brian Jennings. That was the first loss of his career. But I would say Artur Szpilka was a solid opponent for Deontay Wilder, and he proved that in the ring by outboxing Deontay Wilder for the majority of the fight until he got knocked out. Damn, I'm trying to remember what round that was. It was. Dang, was it the 6th round? It had to be the 6th round. It wasn't a long fight. But Deontay Wilder, again, proving that he had a lot of flaws and just getting outboxed for the entire fight, man. It is what it is. I mean, no hate. It's just, and at the end of the day, I mean, we do recognize that Deontay Wilder has that equalizer, which is his power, right? That's the big equalizer, that right hand, that big right hand. When he's in trouble, if he catches you with that right hand, it's over. And we acknowledge that. We're not taking any points away from him for doing that. We're just criticizing his last 5 opponents, right? Then after Artur Szpilka, he fought Chris Arreola, the guy who was 36-4 at the time, washed up, just completely washed up. Chris Arreola has lost multiple times. He's still losing today. Well, actually, you know what? He hasn't fought since Deontay Wilder, now that I think about it. But he lost to Bermane Stiverne. He could have secured that vacant WBC World Heavyweight title. I think he lost to Stiverne twice, actually. But he'd been taking L's, man. He lost to Klitschko. He'd been taking L's, man. We knew he had no chance at beating Deontay Wilder. But again, Deontay Wilder beats Chris Arreola. All right? After that, he faces Gerald Washington. But let's backtrack a little bit. Chris Arreola's a bum. Another bum. All right? Duhaupas is half a bum. Artur Szpilka's decent. Okay? He's decent. And he proved he was decent. Gerald Washington, undefeated fighter. 18-0, one draw at the time of their fight. Gerald Washington was giving Deontay Wilder a lot of trouble in that fight. And in spurts, he was definitely outboxing Wilder. But if you recall, Wilder was coming off of a hand injury, I believe. So I'm not sure if he was playing possum or just trying to test out that right hand. Nevertheless, he beat Gerald Washington, right? I think that was another technical knockout. I mean, he really ain't knocking. He's not KOing. He's TKOing these guys. But, you know, a lot of us felt that stoppage was a little premature. He was doing the windmill thing, the classic Deontay Wilder windmill, right? But he beat Gerald Washington, you know, a guy who really up to that point hadn't done anything. I mean, he had a draw with Amir Mansauer, beat Eddie Chambers. I mean, he hadn't done too much, honestly. And to be honest with you, Gerald Miller beat him more convincingly than Deontay Wilder did. Gerald Washington was terrified of Gerald Miller. But Deontay Wilder beat Gerald Washington. First undefeated fighter he had fought in a while. A long while, actually. But we're not going to get into that. Now, we're going back to Bermane Stiverne. The rematch because of the whole situation with Luis Ortiz, right? We don't rank Bermane Stiverne. Bermane Stiverne's a bum. He's ugly, too. He looks like a, you know what, I'm not even going to do it. But Bermane Stiverne hadn't fought in, like, what, 2-3 years? Like, the last time Bermane Stiverne, he had fought, like, once, maybe twice. Actually, he fought Derek Rossi after Wilder, right? After he lost to Wilder and lost his belt. He fought Derek Rossi that same year. And then, you know, the next fight was Wilder. He got knocked out brutally. That was a very, and I'm not even gonna lie, that was a very entertaining fight. I like to watch people get beat to a pulp on my television screen. And Deontay Wilder really delivered here. However, the WBC protection program provided us with another tomato can. So Bermane Stiverne stepped up and he got chopped down. And we'll probably never see Bermane Stiverne in the ring again. But do you kind of see where I'm going with these fighters? Stiverne twice. Well, Stiverne, Washington, Areola, Spilka, Duhaupas. Is that very impressive? I mean, he made some of these guys look impressive because he was getting worked by Spilka and Washington, right? Duhaupas wasn't going down. He didn't go down until the 11th. I mean, trash. On the other hand, we can look at Anthony Joshua's last 5 opponents, and it's very simple. It's very easy. Carlos Takam, Vladimir Klitschko, Eric Molina, leftovers from Deontay Wilder. We'll keep it 100 here. He is leftovers. Dominic Breazeale, Charles Martin. He beat Charles Martin for his IBF championship. Charles Martin was an undefeated fighter. Dominic Breazeale, undefeated fighter. 2 undefeated fighters back to back, right? So he comes off a win. Charles Martin beats Charles Martin, wins the IBF championship, fights Dominic Breazeale, another an undefeated fighter. And say what you want about Dominic Breazeale, but he breaking dudes' jaws, if you recall. Eric Molina, leftovers, but he beat him more impressively than Deontay Wilder did. But we really need to talk about Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko was coming off of a loss, right? He attempted to get his win back. However, Tyson Fury, not mentally stable, unable to fight Vladimir Klitschko. So Vladimir Klitschko stepped up, trained, probably the hardest he had ever trained for a fight in his entire career, fought Anthony Joshua, dropped Anthony Joshua, dropped him. You can't tell me that Vladimir Klitschko didn't look impressive in that fight, regardless of what his age was. Still a future Hall of Famer, the likes of which Deontay Wilder has never faced. He's never fought anyone who's even remotely close to becoming a future Hall of Famer. Vladimir Klitschko. And if I recall, Deontay Wilder's team at one point refused to pursue a fight with Vladimir Klitschko because they felt he wasn't ready, and he really wasn't ready. But that's beside the point, right? We're talking the last 5 opponents from Wilder, last 5 opponents from Anthony Joshua. Also, the WBC's protection program for Deontay Wilder, or maybe it's Al Haymon, maybe it's PBC, who knows? But there's some protection going on here. Deontay Wilder might be the most protected heavyweight today. And then Carlos Takam, again, another very solid opponent. Maybe trumps all 5 of Deontay Wilder's last opponents. Maybe. I'm just speaking hypothetically. But the proof is in the pudding, man. Like, AJ's last 5 versus Wilder's last 5, it's not even, there's no debate. There's no debate here. However, I feel like Deontay Wilder is being protected by the WBC, not fighting the toughest opponents out there, you know, barely even being forced to face a mandatory, taking so many voluntary defenses of that green belt. You know, he's been holding that green belt hostage for a long time. He's got a tall order in front of him on March 3rd with Luis Ortiz. A lot of people are counting Luis Ortiz out, but Luis Ortiz's boxing ability is far more superior than Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder hasn't fought anyone with the punching power of Luis Ortiz. Punching power and boxing ability and athleticism of Luis Ortiz. But again, I keep it 100 on the channel. If Deontay Wilder wins the fight, he gets 100% credit for me, man. It's nothing for me to give credit when credit's due. You know what I mean? Like, it's nothing. I have no problem doing that. But some of y'all out there, y'all like to make excuses. That's not me. That's not me over here at the A-Side Boxing community, okay? If you want to join us, you already know who to contact, me or Sporting Icons. Hitman Boxing, drop a comment. Please say the Hitman before the boxing. You already know I'm out. And drop your predictions for Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz. Let me know who y'all got and why. I'm out.